Hello everyone, this is Dr. Sham. I welcome you all to my channel Dr. Pharma, and on this video I'll be discussing on peptic ulcer. So see, ulcer means the lesions, or you can say the source, or you can say breaks. Where? In the stomach. So if there are any lesions, sores or breaks in the membrane of the stomach, it is known as peptic ulcer. Now, if this lesions is present on the stomach, it is known as gastric ulcer. Remember that. Gastric ulcer. If the lesions, or you can say the sores, is present on the duodenum, then it becomes a duodenal ulcer, which is the upper part of intestine. Because if you see the structure of this stomach, it's like this, right? Starting with esophagus, and there is a cardiac sphincter, and there's a pylorus and pyrotic sphincter, and it is continuous with a small intestine, that is duodenum. So when the lesions is present on the stomach, it is a gastric ulcer, and when the lesions is present on the duodenum, that is the upper part of the intestine, then it is the duodenal ulcer. Now this lesions and the source is due to, or is peptic ulcer is due to the, you can say, the secretion or excessive secretion of acid pepsin. You can say that when there is an excessive secretion of gastric acid, that is hydrochloric acid, or you can say pepsin, then there will be a injury to the cells and the tissue of the stomach, or you can say membrane of the stomach, leading to peptic ulcer. Now talking about the layers of stomach, if you see the layers of stomach, it consists of different layers. I'm not discussing all that. I'll be discussing on mucus, or you can say mucosal layer, because it is playing a very important role. It is protecting the cells and the tissue of the stomach. Now there is a lining of mucus on the wall of the stomach. Now this mucus will prevents the mechanical injury. It prevents the mechanical injury. Number one. How? By lubricating the contents. So whatever the contents is present in the stomach, by lubricating that, it will prevent the mechanical injury to the stomach wall. Second is, it will prevent the chemical injury also, because you know that there is a secretion of hydrochloric acid and the pepsins, and those are corrosive factor which can injure the stomach wall, or you can say stomach cell. So how this mucosa or mucus is preventing chemical injury? By acting as a barrier. Where? Stomach wall and the corrosive gastric acid, or you can say pepsin. Because see here, it means that see here, in between the stomach wall and this corrosive gastric acid, or you can say pepsin, there is a presence of what? There is a presence of mucosal layer, or you can say mucosa. So when there will be a secretion of this gastric acid, or you can say pepsin, it will not affect to our stomach wall. At the same time, if there will be any injury to the mucus or mucosal layer on the stomach, then what will happen? All this corrosive factor, or I mean to say this gastric acid as well as the pepsin, can damage to the stomach cells and the tissue, leading to what? Leading to peptic ulcer. So this mucus or mucosal layer is playing a most vital role and protecting the stomach cells and the tissue. Now moving towards the etiology, or you can say the causes of peptic ulcer. it has been observed that the bacteria, that is Helicobacter pylori, is involved in causing the peptic ulcer. Apart from that, you can say genetic factors, and then increasing age, and then stress, psychological stress can also lead to peptic ulcer, remember that. And then shock means, when our body cells is not getting the adequate amount of blood, so at that time also the shock can also be the causative agent or etiological factor for peptic ulcer. And then physical trauma, or you can say any physical injury to the body. After that, septicemia means, emia means blood, right? Or you can say blood poisoning, or you can say infection to the blood can also lead to peptic ulcer. And then the most important thing you can see here is hyperacidity. It means increase in the secretion of gastric acid, as I have discussed in the beginning, that is hydrochloric acid. Now there is one more term you have to remember here: increase in the secretion of gastric juice or gastric acid, also known as Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Remember that. So there is a special name for this hyperacidity or hypersecretion of gastric acid. When there is a hypersecretion of gastric acid, it is known as Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. And you know that how this acid is corrosive, and it can lead to the damage to our stomach cells and the tissue. Apart from that, some drugs like NSAIDs, or you can say non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, examples like you can say aspirin, or you can say indomethacin, naproxen, ibuprofen, all can damage to the stomach cells, leading to peptic ulcer. So that is why, remember that whenever you are taking painkiller, that is NSAIDs, you must have to take one antacid with that, because these are gastric irritants. Because whenever you are taking any NSAIDs, those chemicals can cause the damage to our stomach cells, leading to peptic ulcer. That is why it has been instructed that whenever you are taking the painkiller, or you can say any NSAIDs, you have to take the antacid with that. And steroids can also cause a peptic ulcer, or I mean to say it can also lead to gastric irritants, or you can say damage to the cells and the tissue. Apart from that, local irritants like you can say the alcohol as well as the smoking can also cause a peptic ulcer, which is also a etiological agent. So this is the etiological factor for peptic ulcer. Now moving towards the pathophysiology. So you can see here some of the factors I have written here: mucus layer, bicarbonate, prostaglandins, mucosal blood flow, epithelial renewal, or you can say epithelial cells. See, these all are defensive factor. These all are defensive factor. Defensive factor means what? These factors are protecting our stomach cells. Okay. Whereas the other factors like Helicobacter pylori, NSAIDs, acid pepsin, bile acid, smoking and alcohol, all these are aggressive factor. All these are aggressive factors. Now, under the normal physiological condition, all these are balanced. It means that if there is an aggressive factor, our defensive factor will protect our stomach wall, or you can say the membrane of the stomach. But at the same time, when the aggressive factor is high, or you can say more, or when there is an increase in the number of aggressive factor, it will dominate this defensive factor, or you can say it will overcome this defensive factor, right? At that time, it will cause the injury to the cell, leading to cells of what? Cells of the stomach, leading to peptic ulcer. As how I have discussed in the beginning of the class, how the mucosal layer is protecting or preventing the mechanical injury as well as from the chemical injury to the stomach wall. So all these are, remember that all these are defensive factor, means all these are protecting our membranes of the stomach, or you can say stomach wall, whereas these all are aggressive factor, and imbalance of this defensive factor and aggressive factor. I mean to say, if there will be an increase in the aggressive factor, it will overcome the defensive factor and can cause the damage to the cells and the tissue of the stomach, leading to peptic ulcer. So this is your brief physiology, pathophysiology for peptic ulcer. Now talking about the clinical features, if you talk about the signs and symptoms of peptic ulcer, there will be epigastric pain, or you can say the pain in the epigastrium. The patient will have vomiting, and then dysphagia. Dysphagia means difficulty in swallowing. The patient will feel difficulty in swallowing food, and there will be a dyspepsia. Dyspepsia means indigestion. Indigestion. After that, the patient may have anorexia, that is loss of appetite, or sometimes the patient may feel to take food, but they are afraid to take the food. And the most important thing is to remember is hematemesis means, there will be a vomiting blood. Vomiting blood. And this you can see in GERD also, that is gastroesophageal reflux disease, and melena. See, melena means, dark stool. The stool will be dark, or you can say black, due to the upper gastrointestinal bleeding. So this is the most, you can say the common symptoms, or you can say symptoms you can see in the patient suffering from peptic ulcer. And then the patient will have weight loss and deep tenderness, especially in the midline of the epigastrium. So these are some of the clinical features, or you can say signs and the symptoms we can observe to a patient who is suffering from peptic ulcer. Now talking about the complications, means what will happen after the patient or is suffering from peptic ulcer. There will be a obstruction. Now when there will be a development of fibrous scar, near the pylorus, then it may lead to pyloric stenosis. Stenosis means narrowing. You know that this is the stomach, right? And there is a pyloric splinter. So from this, all the food content will move towards the small intestine, right? So due to this obstruction, there will be a narrowing. There will be a narrowing of this pyloric splinter, or you can say pylorus, leading to pyloric stenosis. Remember that stenosis means narrowing, or narrowing of pylorus. Okay. Next is hemorrhage. Hemorrhage means that bleeding. So there will be a minor bleeding due to the erosion of the small blood vessels, and this you can detect by testing the stool for occult blood. Now again, if there will be a chronic hemorrhage, if that patient is having chronic hemorrhage, or you can say chronic blood loss, it may lead to the iron deficiency and anemia. So the chronic blood loss can also lead to a iron deficiency anemia, because you know that anemia means decrease in the blood. Now next is perforation. See, perforation means hole in the stomach wall, or you can say in the wall of the stomach. Now this perforation, if there will be a hole in the stomach wall, what will happen? Whatever the contents is there, whatever the contents is there in the stomach, it may travel to the peritoneum. It may travel to the peritoneum, leading to peritoneal So when there will be a hole in this stomach wall, whatever the contents is there, it may travel to the peritoneal cavity, leading to acute peritonitis, means inflammation of the peritoneal cavity. Next is peptic ulcer can also lead to the malignant transformation, or you can say the malignant tumor, or you can say the cancer. So these are some of the clinical features and the complications. Now talking about the management, there's a lifestyle modification. Lifestyle modification in the sense, that due to alcohol, due to smoke, due to stress, it can lead to peptic ulcer. So they should avoid or stop that, taking alcohol, taking smoking, and also taking the stress. After that, talking about the diet, the patients should avoid the fried foods and the curries and the heavily spicy food. They should not take the heavily spicy food. And see, the peptic ulcer patient can take the milk and the egg. Now talking to the drugs, we have to give the drug. Now you know that already the hydrochloric acid has been formed, or you can say the gastric acid has been formed. So we have to give the drugs like antacid, magnesium hydroxide, and then aluminum hydroxide, calcium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate. So this drug will neutralize the acid, and it will decrease the effect of that acid to the stomach cells and the tissue. Then there are some drugs which will reduce the gastric acid secretion by blocking the H2 receptor. So it is known as H2 receptor blocker. Examples is cimetidine, ranitidine, famotidine. After that, you can give PPI, that is proton pump inhibitor. Examples are pantoprazole, omeprazole, lansoprazole, rabiprazole. All these are the examples of proton pump inhibitor. And there are some ulcer protective like sucralfate, bismuth compounds. And then you can give some antibiotics also like amoxicillin, clarithromycin, that will eliminate, or you can say eradicate the bacteria, that is Helicobacter pylori. As I told you in the etiology, this bacteria is responsible for causing the peptic ulcer. And we can also give the metronidazole as well as tinidazole. So these are some of the drugs which you can use or prescribe for the patient who is suffering from peptic ulcer. Now again, if this by using this drug also, if the patient is not curable, or you can say the drug is not if the drug is not working, then you have to go for surgery. In that, it includes gastroenterostomy. Gastroenterostomy means we will create, or the surgeon will create the passage between the stomach and the small intestine. Vagotomy means there will be a cord. We have to cut the vagus nerve. Surgeon will cut the vagus nerve so that there will be excretion, or you can say the elimination of the acids, that is acid. Pyeloplasty means pyloroplasty. You know that there is a stenosis has been taken place, or you can say the pylorus has been narrowed so that the food content is unable to pass to the small intestine. That is why by this surgery we will widen the pylorus so that the food content can pass easily from the stomach to the small intestine. So this is a brief information regarding peptic ulcer. So in this corona time, just I request all of you to wear the masks, use the hand sanitizer, wash your hands regularly. Don't go out until unless if there's any need. Take care of you, take care of family, and take care of everyone, because if you want to go out, so that we can break the chain of the virus. Take a healthy food diet. Okay, so I hope you like the video. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the video. Thank you all.